Chalo. So this is May June 2024, paper 2, variant 2, 1 hour 45 minutes. Let's see the first question. Chalo, let's see the first question. Figure 1.1 shows two trolleys. Perfect. On the front of trolley A, there is a wooden rod. Perfect. This is a wooden rod. Trolley B is initially at rest. Perfect. Trolley B is initially at rest. That is, the initial velocity of trolley B is 0. Perfect. As trolley A moves towards the right, the rod enters inside the molding clay. Perfect. As trolley A move towards the right, जैसे ये राइट पे मूव करती है, what happens? The molding clay enters inside the wooden rod. Perfect. Trolley A slows down and trolley B starts moving. Perfect. Figure 1.2 shows the speed time graph of the two trolleys. Perfect. So initially trolley B is at rest. You can see that trolley B की velocity is initially 0. Perfect. And initially trolley A is traveling at a velocity of what? This is roughly 0.7. Initially trolley A is traveling with a velocity of 0.7 and trolley B is at a velocity of 0. Perfect. Now after collision, both of the velocities combine, both of the trolleys combine together and they have a velocity of 0.4. Perfect. The trolleys start to collide at time t is equals to 0.3 seconds. Yeah, we can see that. And at time t is equals to 0.5 seconds, the trolley are moving at the same speed. Perfect. Yeah, that's correct. And this is the time 0.3 जहाँ पे collision start होता है and at 0.5 the collision stops. The state of figure 1.2 shows that during collision, trolley B has a uniform acceleration. Okay. How do we know that during collision, trolley B has uniform acceleration? Yes. How do we know that during collision, trolley B has uniform acceleration? Any geniuses who would like to answer this way? How do we know that during collision, trolley B has a uniform acceleration? Because you have a straight graph, a straight line on the speed time graph from zero point 0.3 till 0.5 seconds, that is during collision. Trolley B has a straight line graph on the speed time curve. बेटा ट्रॉली बी का जो स्पीड टाइम ग्राफ है इट इज अ स्ट्रेट लाइन ड्यूरिंग द कोलिजन. ओके. If you have a straight line, what does that mean? That means the gradient is constant. And what is the gradient of a speed time graph? The gradient of a speed time graph is equals to acceleration. That means acceleration is constant. You can write it here. The graph is straight line. Straight line. Indicating what? Indicating constant acceleration. Constant acceleration. Simple as that. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. Describe how the graph in figure 1.2 shows that the magnitude or size of the acceleration of trolley B is larger than the magnitude of the deceleration of trolley A. Okay. Now बेटा हमें किस तरह पता चल रहा है कि the magnitude of acceleration of trolley B is greater than the magnitude of deceleration of trolley A? Where is the deceleration of trolley A? This one. This one. Now, how can you tell this? Yes, how can you tell this? बेटा बहुत easy answer है if you focus closely. If you focus, the gradient of this green line, the gradient is steeper for line B, and the gradient is less steep here. The gradient is less steep here. So you can write this. बेटा you can write this. इसको लिख सकते हो. शाबाश फहाद, very good. You can say that trolley B has a steeper line, or you can say steeper gradient. Trolley B has a steeper line. Steeper line कर देते हैं और उसके बाद we can write steeper line. Hence, a greater gradient resulting in a larger amplitude, in a larger magnitude of acceleration. Nothing complicated here. Literally the easiest thing. ठीक है. अच्छा, calculate the acceleration of trolley B when time t is equals to 0.4 seconds. बेटा आपने acceleration निकालनी है. How will you do that? Acceleration कैसे निकालोगे यहाँ पे? Very very easy. You have to calculate. Let me zoom in here. You have to, chalo, let me erase something here. You have to calculate the acceleration at this point, 0.4 seconds. So how can you calculate the acceleration here? Beta, you know that the acceleration throughout this line will remain same because it is a straight line. Can you calculate the gradient here? Yes. 0.4 into 0.2, and let's take this point as well, that is 0.3 and 0. Can you calculate the gradient that is equals to the acceleration? Yes, 0.2 minus 0 divided by 0.4 minus 0.3. This comes out to be what? 0.2 divided by 0.1. This comes out to be 2 ms minus 2. This is your acceleration. Simple. कुछ भी ज़्यादा नहीं किया. Let's take this to the downside. ये आ गई आपकी acceleration बेटा. Literally nothing complicated. Easiest thing to ever exist. चलो अब आगे बढ़ते हैं. The mass of trolley A is this. The mass of trolley B is this. Show that the momentum is conserved in the collision. We have to show that the momentum is conserved in the collision. Beta, how can we show that momentum is conserved? We can calculate the total momentum before collision and we can calculate the total momentum after collision. If both of them are equal, then the momentum is conserved. Let's calculate the momentum before collision. Let's calculate the momentum before collision. Before collision, only trolley A is moving with a velocity of 0.7. Perfect. So before collision, your momentum will be equal to what? The mass of trolley A, that is 0.8, into the velocity, that is 0.7. What will be the momentum after collision? After collision, both the trolleys have combined together and are moving with a velocity of 0.4. Okay. So the combined mass of both the trolleys will be what? 0.6 plus 0.8 and the velocity is 0.4. This comes out to be what? 0.56. This is 1.4 into 0.4. This is also 0.56. If you can observe, the total momentum before collision is equal to the total momentum after collision. Hence, the momentum is conserved. Nothing complicated here. Let's further move ahead. In another collision between the same trolleys, the rod and the molding clay are not present. Trolley A hits trolley B at the same initial speed. Explain why the force between the trolley is larger in this collision. बेटा अब जो है, अब थोड़ा सा फोकस चाहिए. ठीक है. Now if you focus here, if you focus here, the molding clay has been removed. The molding clay has been removed. You have to tell why the force between the trolley increases, why the force is larger between the trolleys. Yes, beta, you will be getting the solved paper PDF. Don't worry about it. Annotated past paper जो हैं वो Google Drive पे upload हो जाएंगे. Don't worry about it. Explain why the force between the trolley is larger when you have removed the molding clay. Yes. Why is the force between the trolleys larger if you have removed the molding clay? If you realize Force is equals to change in momentum over change in time. If the molding clay is not present and if the rod is also not present, what will happen? The time for collision decreases. And as the time for collision decreases, what will happen to the force? The force increases. Hence, the force increases. And this marks the end of the first question. If you have any ambiguities here, you can ask. बेटा पूरे सवाल में कोई मसला है, you can ask, right? Hmm. Figure 2.1 shows a small swimming pool containing water. Okay, this is a small swimming pool containing water. The depth of water in the pool is this. The density of the water is this. Perfect. Show that the mass of water in the pool is approximately this. Okay. So, how can we calculate the mass of water? Mass is equals to density into volume. What is density? 1000. What will the volume be equal to? 4 into 2.1 into the height, that is 0.8. Can anyone calculate the volume? Does anyone calculate the volume भैया? क्या आता है वॉल्यूम आपका? यस, कैलकुलेट करो वॉल्यूम क्या आता है. Your answer for mass comes out to be 6700 kg. Define pressure. 1 mark का सवाल है बेटा. What will you say? Force per unit area. Simple as that. Calculate the pressure on the base of the pool due to the water. Okay, you have to calculate the pressure on the base of the pool. Pressure is equals to force over area. What is your force? बेटा आपकी force क्या होगी? Force will be this mass multiplied by the gravitational field strength. Mass is 6700 into 9.81. What will be your area? बेटा एरिया क्या होगा प्रेशर के केस में? दिस बेस एरिया 2.1 into 4. So let's do it. 2.1 into 4. Can you calculate the pressure? Any geniuses in the chart? The pressure comes out to be 7800 pascals. Let's further move ahead. The water in the pool is initially at a temperature of 10 degrees centigrade. Perfect. The temperature rises when 5.1 into 10 raised to the power of 8 joules of energy is transferred to the water. The specific heat capacity of water is this. You have to calculate the final temperature of water. Easy peasy. You will say Q is equals to mc delta T. Q is what? 5.1 into 10 raised to the power of 8. Your mass is what? Mass of water was 6700 kg. Specific heat capacity is what? 4200. Okay, what is the change in temperature? Final temperature minus initial temperature. Okay, can you calculate the final temperature? Yes, very, very easy. 5.1 into 10 raised to the power of 8 divided by 6700 multiplied by 4200 plus 10 is equals to your final temperature. Can you calculate the final temperature? The final temperature comes out to be 28 degrees centigrade. Simple as that. Here your final answer. Final temperature is 28 degrees centigrade. Let's see part B. Explain in terms of the movement of the particles how evaporation causes cooling. What a beautiful question. How does evaporation causes cooling? You will say, this is a two-marker question. You will say, molecules with greater with greater kinetic energy, kinetic energy, escape, escape from the surface, from the surface of the liquid. What happens next? बेटा next क्या होता है? The average kinetic energy, kinetic energy of the liquid falls, this causes the temperature to decrease. This causes the temperature to decrease. इन द लास्ट सेशन लास्ट ईयर ये मेरे कितने स्टूडेंट्स ने ये एग्जाम दिया था 30 to 35 और मोस्टली के ए स्टार्स आए थे तो तुम लोगों ने भी कोई सही काम करना है या वेरी गुड वेरी वेरी गुड वेरी गुड चलो लेट्स सी दिस Changes to the factors in the environment in the swimming pool can cause an increase or decrease in the amount of evaporation from the surface of the water. State two changes to the environmental factors that increase the amount of evaporation from the surface of water. भाई आपकी evaporation किस तरह increase हो सकती है बेटा? Either you can increase the surface area, increase the surface area. What could be another factor? Yes, what could be another factor? Increase the wind speed, increase the wind speed. Figure 3.1 shows a solar powered charger connected to a cell phone. Perfect. ये एक solar powered charger है connected to a cell phone. The battery inside the cell phone is charged by the solar power charger. Perfect. The battery inside the cell phone is charged by a solar power. Perfect. Complete figure 3.2 to show the useful transfer of energy from the sun to the battery. बेटा सन में कौन सी एनर्जी होती है sun always contains nuclear energy. Nuclear energy in the sun converts light from the sun, electric energy in the charger, and that gets converted into what? Battery में हमेशा कौन सी एनर्जी होती है बेटा? Chemical energy. Chemical energy. Explain why the battery takes a longer time to charge on a cloudy day. Why does the battery take a longer time to charge on a cloudy day? You can say on a cloudy day, less light from the sun from the sun reaches the solar charger. Reaches the solar charger. Let's move ahead. After use, the outside surface of the cell phone is warm. When switched off, the cell phone cools off. Perfect. You might have also noticed this as well. भाई कभी पबजी खेल रहे हो या कोई ऑनलाइन मोबाइल गेम खेल रहे हो तो यू माइट सी कि मोबाइल जो है वो हीट अप हो जाता है unless and until you have a very high end of a phone. ठीक है. Now let's see what happens next पे क्या लिखा हुआ है. Now, name and describe the three processes by which thermal energy is transferred as the cell phone cools down. बेटा सेल फोन जैसे ही कूल डाउन हो रहा है व्हाट आर द थ्री टाइप्स ऑफ एनर्जी ट्रांसफर्स देखो अगर आप होशियार हो ना तो आपको पता होगा कि देर आर ओनली थ्री टाइप्स ऑफ एनर्जी ट्रांसफर दैट वी हैव स्टडीड व्हाट आर दोस थ्री टाइप्स ऑफ एनर्जी ट्रांसफर दैट वी हैव स्टडीड कंडक्शन convection and radiation now you also have to explain them as well you also have to explain them how all these three energy transfer help in cooling the phone down you will say energy यहाँ पे मैं सेमी कोलन लगा के समझा देता हूँ यू कैन से दैट एनर्जी transfers from one molecule in the solid to another through the process of conduction you can say you can say you can say thermal energy thermal energy transfers from one molecule or from one particle of cell to another थर्मल एनर्जी क्या करती है भाई ट्रांसफर करती है फ्रॉम वन पार्टिकल ऑफ सेल टू अनदर इवेंचुअली रीचिंग द एयर पार्टिकल्स सिंपल How does heat transfer take place using convection? बेटा convection के through heat transfer किस तरह take place करता है? This you can say the air surrounding the battery or the cell surrounding the cell gets hot and less dense, causing it to rise. रेडिएशन के थ्रू हीट ट्रांसफर कैसे अकर करता है भाई? रेडिएशन के थ्रू हीट ट्रांसफर कैसे अकर करता है? इंफ्रारेड रेडिएशंस infrared radiations are emitted from the surface of the cell of the cell. Simple. Let's further move ahead. अच्छा जी. It takes 4.5 hours to charge the battery with an average current of this. Perfect. Calculate the quantity of charge that enters the body. Give you a unit for your answer. Very, very easy. You have the time that is 4.5 hours. You have the current that is 300 milliampere. Perfect. Can you calculate the charge? Yes. Current is equals to charge over time. Charge is equals to current into time. Current is 300 milliampere. 300 into 10 is the power of minus 3. Time is what? 4.5 hours. 4.5 into 60 minutes in each hour and 60 seconds in each minute. What does your total charge come out to be, beta? Total charge comes out to be 4,900. The unit is coulombs. Is everything clear in question number 3? कोई मसला यहाँ पे ask right अभी. Figure 4.1 shows light passing through a triangular glass prism. Perfect. This is light passing through a triangular glass prism. State the value of the angle of incidence at point P. You have to state the value of angle of incidence at this point. Perfect. So if you notice, what will be the normal here? If you notice, the normal here coincides with the ray P. So what will be the angle of incidence? 0 degrees. Angle of incidence will be. No, 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 no. Very common mistake here. Very common mistake here. The one who gave 90 as your answer, beta, this is the most common mistake that students make here. Angle of incidence क्या होता है बेटा? Angle of incidence is the angle between the incident ray and the normal. This is your angle of incidence. Let's say this is your incident ray, this will be your angle of incidence. But if your incident ray is exactly on the normal, then your angle of incidence becomes 0 degree. Simple, nothing complicated here. Angle of incidence is equals to 0 degree here, not 90. Draw the normal and the angle of incidence at point R. Label the angle of incidence. Perfect. Let's see where is point R. यहाँ पे point R है. बेटा अब हमेशा क्या याद रखना है? Always remember what is a normal. Normal is a 90-degree line like this. Normal is a 90-degree line like this. So you can draw a 90-degree line like this. Normal is a 90-degree line to the barrier or to the glass prism. This is your normal here. So let's mark it. This is my normal. What will be your angle of incidence? Angle of incidence is the angle between the incident ray and the normal. This is your angle of incidence, I. Simple. Let's further move ahead. State two condition needed so that no light refracts from the glass into the air at point Q. अच्छा point Q क्या है? Here. Okay, what should be your two conditions so that no light diffracts? So, sorry, no light refracts from the glass into the air. What are the two conditions so that no light refracts from the glass into the air? Peter, do you remember a concept known as total internal reflection? Do you remember a small little ambiguous concept total internal reflection जो हम सब बहुत ही conveniently ignore कर देते थे? Yeah. Do you remember that total internal reflection का concept? What did total internal reflection said? Total internal reflection said that if you draw a normal here like this, and let's make it dotted so that we know this is a normal, like this. Yeah. And if your angle of incidence I is greater than the critical angle, then the ray will reflect back into the medium. Then the ray will reflect back into the medium. It will not cause refraction. बेटा total internal reflection का concept, do you guys remember? What the total internal reflection state? That if your angle of incidence is greater than the critical angle, then the ray will reflect back into the medium. It will not cause refraction. So first of all, you will write what? First of all, you will write angle of incidence must be must be greater than the critical angle. Perfect. And what is the second condition? What is the second condition? Yes. Do you remember बेटा critical angle और total internal reflection वाले concepts कब होते थे? Yes. Critical angle and total internal reflection वाले concepts कब होते थे? When you are going from a more dense medium into a less dense medium. So what will be your second condition? You will state that light must be going. Light must be traveling. Must be traveling from more dense to less dense material. Simple as that. Nothing complicated. Let's further move ahead. Information is sent across the internet using pulses of visible light through long thin glass fibers and electrical signals through copper wires. State the name of one other type of electromagnetic radiations used to transmit information through long thin glass fibers. भाई ये कौन सी रेडिएशन है जिससे हम ट्रांसमिट कर सकते हैं इंफॉर्मेशन? इंफ्रारेड. State two advantage of using glass fibers rather than copper wires to transmit information from the internet. बेटा ये optical fibers की ही बात हो रही है. Why are optical fibers more advantageous than copper wires? They are more secure. They are more secure, you can say. More secure data transfer. What can be another advantage? Any geniuses in the chart that remember the advantages of optical fibers? हाँ भाई. Yes. ऑप्टिकल फाइबर्स का क्या एक और एडवांटेज होता था? यू कैन से faster speed of data transfer. Simple. An initially uncharged rubber balloon is rubbed with a woolen cloth as shown in figure 5.1. Rubbing the balloon causes the balloon to have a negative charge. Okay, the balloon has a negative charge. What happens? Balloon gain electrons. Balloon gains electrons. And woolen cloth loses electrons and now has a positive charge. Beta, can you see just for writing this basic thing you got 2 marks? Explain why the balloon stays negatively charged for a long time. What a beautiful question to ask. Why the balloon remains negatively charged for a long time? Balloon is what? Balloon is made up of what? Balloon is made up of what? If you see, Balloon is made up of what? Rubber. Balloon is made up of rubber. And rubber is an insulator. You can write here balloon. Balloon is made up of rubber. And rubber is an insulator. Rubber is an insulator which limits what? Which limits the movement of electrons. Which limits the movement of electrons. Now let's move on to part B. Rubbing the balloon causes the temperature of the air inside to rise. Explain in terms of the particles of the air why the volume of the balloon increases when the temperature of the air rises. Wow, what an interesting question again. बेटा टेम्परेचर राइज करने की वजह से why does the volume increases? Yes, any geniuses in the chat who would like to answer this? टेम्परेचर इंक्रीज करने की वजह से why does the volume increases? Anyone who would like to answer this? Why does the volume increases as temperature increases? Very, very, very easy. As the temperature increases, first of all, you will say as temperature increases, what happens? Kinetic energy, kinetic energy of molecules increases. Hence, molecules move faster. What will happen as molecules move faster? Yes, molecules faster move करेंगे तो बेटा क्या होगा? As अच्छा, one thing here. Uh, it is better to write. अच्छा, this is a key point for the entirety of O levels and IGCSE physics. In O levels and IGCSE physics, it is better to write particles in place of molecules. It is better to write particles in place of molecules. Okay. So instead of molecules, you can write particles. Hence, particles move faster as particles move faster. They collide more frequently. Hence, hence what? They collide more frequently. Hence, the force increases. Hence, the force on balloon increases, causing the volume to increase, causing the volume to increase. Simple. Molecules and particles are the same thing, but in physics, whenever you are writing an answer, it is preferred that you use the keyword of particles. It is preferred that you use the keyword of particles. Walaikum assalam, beta. Okay, आगे बढ़े. Is this question 5? Yeah, question 5, top to bottom, clear. Let all the students join by. Is question 5 clear? Top to bottom. Do you get this? How did we went through it step by step? Nothing complicated here. चलो क्वेश्चन 6 पे बढ़ते हैं भाई. Let's move on to question 6. Let's see this. Pressure remains constant. The pressure remains constant. Whenever temperature and volume are varying, pressure remains constant. और प्रेशर का आपने यहाँ पे जिक्र भी नहीं करना बेटा. ठीक है. Figure 6.1 shows a circuit diagram containing a battery a light dependent resistor and a fixed resistor of resistance 240 ohms connected in series. Perfect. So 240 ohm का fixed resistor है, LDR है, battery है. Perfect. There is a lamp. Okay, there is a lamp near the circuit. Light from the lamp is incident on the LDR when the lamp is switched on. Perfect. Figure 6.2 shows the current voltage graph for the LDR with the lamp switched on and with the lamp switched off. Perfect. This is the current versus voltage graph for the LDR with the lamp switched on and with the lamp switched off. Okay. Now I have always told you guys a trick. I have always preferred a method here. एग्जाम में जब भी कोई ऐसी चीज देखो जो थ्योरी में ऑलरेडी पड़ी है, यू मेक अ की नोट हेयर. If the lamp is switched on, the light intensity increases. The resistance of the LDR will be less. Perfect. So, if the resistance of the LDR is less, what will happen to the voltage over current ratio? The voltage over current ratio will decrease because resistance is less. What will happen to current versus voltage ratio? It will increase. Simple as that. So here you can see the gradient of this graph is greater. Here you can see the gradient of this graph is greater when the lamp is switched on. Because the gradient on this graph is equals to what? Gradient on this graph is equals to current versus voltage. I really don't know whether we will need this or not, but I have just made some key points here so that my confidence increases when I read the next question. State Ohm's law. What is Ohm's law? Current is directly proportional to potential difference given that temperature is constant. You will say current is directly proportional to potential difference. Current is directly proportional to potential difference given that temperature is constant. Simple. Explain how the graph lines in figure 6.2 show that Ohm's law apply to the LDR. Okay. How do these graph lines tell you that Ohm's law apply to the LDR? Yes. How do these graph lines tell you that Ohm's law applies to an LDR? Because the graph is a straight line passing through the origin. Because the graph is a straight line passing through the origin. You can say it here. Let me use pink as my highlighter. Graph is a straight line passing through origin. Simple as that. Nothing complicated. सर कर्व नहीं है. यस, इसको इंग्लिश में लिखना होता है बेटा. वेरी गुड. सर ये क्या कौन कह रहा है ये स्ट्रेट लाइन. वेरी गुड मीजअप, वेरी गुड. ये एक बहुत ही. सर इंक्रीजिंग लाइट इंटेंसिटी इंक्रीज नहीं करती दूर अदन. बेटा क्या हो गया है. यस. थोड़ा सा लॉजिकली पढ़ के आते हैं ना. लाइट इंटेंसिटी इंक्रीज होगी तो रेजिस्टेंस विल ऑलवेज डिक्रीज. Always remember this, for an LDR, if the light intensity increases, the resistance decreases. Make this as a key note in your registers. Use values from figure 6.2 to explain the light effect on the resistance of the LDR. Now, your confidence is already at a 10x level. ये सवाल बहुत easily कर लोगे. You have to use values from figure 6.2 to explain the effect of light on the resistance of the LDR. Okay. So, which point should I take? Yeah, let's take point 3. ये वाला point लेते हैं. Let's take this point. If you see, if you see, uh, no, this is also not good. आई एम लुकिंग फॉर अ पॉइंट जहां से रीडिंग इजीली ले सकें. या लेट्स टेक दीज पॉइंट्स. Let's take this point and let's take this point. When the lamp is switched off, the voltage is 8. The current is 0.06 ampere. Can you calculate the resistance V over I? This comes out to be 8 over 0.06. This comes out to be what? 8 divided by 0.06 करो बेटा क्या आता है? 8 divided by 0.06. This comes out to be 133 ohms. This comes out to be 133 ohms. But if you calculate the resistance here, you have a voltage of 8. You have a current of 0.1. What does your resistance comes out to be here? Resistance is equals to V over I, that is 8 over 0.1, that is equals to 80 ohms. Simple as that. So you will say at a voltage of 8 volts, the resistance is 80 ohms when the lamp lamp is switched on, and the lamp is switched on, and 133 ohm when the lamp is switched off. Perfect. और बेटा last statement what can you write? Last statement क्या लिख सकते हो? You can say hence resistance decreases, hence resistance decreases as light increases. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead. With the lamp switch on, the current in the LDR is this. Perfect. Calculate the current in the fixed resistor. बेटा कितना ही अजीब सवाल है ये. With the lamp switched on, the current in the LDR is 0.05 ampere. Can you realize this is a series circuit? The current in the fixed resistor will also be 0.05 ampere. Let's write it here. 0.05 ampere. You have to calculate the electromotive force of the cell. Very, very easy. How can you do that? If you analyze when the lamp is switched on and the current is 0.05 ampere, the lamp is switched on and the current is 0.05 ampere, your voltage is what? 4. So can you calculate the resistance of the LDR? Voltage is 4 volts. Current is 0.05. Can you calculate the resistance of the LDR? Yes, voltage divided by current. 4 divided by 0.05. This comes out to be what? This comes out to be 80 ohms. Perfect. Now you know. Now you know that the resistance of the LDR is 80 ohms. The resistance of the fixed resistor is 240 ohms. Can you calculate the total resistance? Yes, 240 plus 80, that is equals to 320 ohms. Perfect. The current is what? 0.05 ampere. Can you calculate the voltage? As voltage is equals to IR. I is 0.05. Resistance is 320. Can you calculate this answer by? Can you guys calculate this answer? 0.05 into 320. This comes out to be 16 volts as your electromotive force. Any ambiguities in this entire question number 6? Ask right away. Ask right away. Let me put this at the bottom. A plotting compass contains a needle. Perfect. A plotting compass contains a needle. Perfect. The needle is a small magnet that can rotate about its center. Perfect. Figure 7.1 shows the plotting compass placed close to a bar magnet. Perfect. This is a plotting compass placed close to a bar magnet. On figure 7.1, mark the magnetic poles of the bar magnet. What will be the magnetic poles of the bar magnet? Yes, this south is pointing towards the north. If this is north, this will be south. Simple as that. Nothing complicated. ठीक है, चलो लेट्स मूव अहेड. There is a piece of paper underneath the magnet. Perfect. Describe how the compass is used to plot the magnetic field line that passes from one pole to the other and through P. You have to describe how will you plot the magnetic field lines using a compass. Yes. Now, what will you do? Yes, you will place one end of the compass needle on any point and mark the other end of the compass needle on the paper. Okay, now what do I mean by that? You will first of all say place one end of the compass needle of the compass needle at, let's say, point P, and mark the the position of the needle that, yeah, you can phrase it like this, and mark, oh, what have I done here? And you can say mark mark the other end of the needle. What do I mean by that, भाई? What do I mean by that? Let's say बेटा आपने compass needle यहाँ पे place किए. Let's say you have placed the compass needle here. ठीक है? You have placed the compass needle at point P. ठीक है? You will mark the other end of the compass needle. You will mark the other end of the compass needle. Let's say भाई यहाँ पे आपका north pole point कर रहा है. This is your south pole. So you can mark this north pole. You can mark this north pole. Perfect. Then what will be your second step? What will be your second step? Move the compass needle so that the other end is next to the mark point. Now you will say, move the compass needle and place it on the marked end. बेटा आप जहां पे आपने येलो हाईलाइट किया था ना वहां पे कंपास नीडल वापस प्लेस कर दो. ओके, व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन? कंटिन्यू, or you can say repeat the process multiple times to get a complete magnetic field. To get a complete magnetic field. Simple as that. Describe how to use the compass in figure 7.1 to determine the direction of the magnetic field at point P. भाई magnetic field की direction किस तरह determine कर सकते हो at point P? You will place the compass at point P, the direction in which north points is your direction of the magnetic field. Place the compass. Place the compass at point P, the direction in which north points is the direction of magnetic field. Simple as that, nothing complicated. ठीक है, चलो. Now let's further move ahead. Figure 4.2 shows the apparatus a student uses to produce an alternating current. Wow, we have a magnet, we have a coil, and we are trying to produce an alternating current. Perfect. The magnet is moved into and out of the coil. Explain why a current is produced when the magnet moves. बेटा current क्यों produce होता है when the magnet moves? Because magnetic field lines cut with the coil, inducing an EMF. You will say, oh, what has happened here? Why? You will say, you will say, magnetic field lines, magnetic field lines cut with the coil, cut with the coil, inducing what? Inducing EMF. Simple as that. Describe the movement of the magnet that produces a frequency of zero point 0.5 hertz. Okay, what will be the movement of the magnet that produces a frequency of zero point 0.5 hertz? Okay, a frequency, a frequency of zero point 0.5 hertz means what? It a frequency of zero point 0.5 hertz means what? Your time period will be what? 1 over f, that is 1 over zero point 0.5. Time period is 2 seconds. A frequency of zero point 0.5 hertz means what? Time period of 2 seconds. This means what? The magnet, the magnet is moved in and out once every 2 seconds. The magnet is moved in and out once every 2 seconds. Perfect. Describe how the center 0 ammeter shows the current is AC rather than DC. What will happen to the reading on the center 0 ammeter to prove that the current is AC and not DC? What will you see on the center 0 ammeter? बेटा center 0 ammeter पे क्या देखोगे? You will see readings on both sides of the zero, on both sides of the zero to indicate an alternating current. Explain why increasing the frequency of the AC produced also increases the magnitude or size of the AC produced. बेटा वो कह रहा है कि why does increasing the frequency of the magnet की movement increases the magnitude of the AC current produced. Why is this the case? Because if you increase the frequency, what happens? Larger rate of cutting effect, larger larger amount of cutting effect, or you can say larger rate of cutting effect, larger rate of cutting effect, hence a greater EMF. Simple. Let's see this. Figure 6.1 is a picture of a nebula formed from a supernova. State what is meant by the supernova. Supernova क्या होता है? Explosion of a red supergiant. Explosion of a red supergiant. Explosion of a red supergiant is known as supernova. Describe how a protostar forms inside a nebula. Describe how a protostar forms inside a nebula. We have to tell how a protostar forms from a nebula. Perfect. So you will say clouds of gas and dust come closer to each other, come closer to each other. What happens next? As clouds of gas and dust comes close to each other, beta, what happens next? Hmm. This causes, this causes an increase in the number of collisions and the temperature increases and the temperature increases. Perfect. Let's further move ahead. One, our sun is a circular orbit, is in a circular orbit around a black hole at the center of our galaxy. State the name of the galaxy that contains our sun, Milky Way. Milky Way. State what is meant by a light year, the distance traveled by light in 1 year is known as light year. Let's look at part 3 of this question. This is one of the most interesting questions. बेटा थोड़ा सा फोकस करके देखना है. I need your undivided attention here. किसी की भी attention यहाँ से गई मतलब भाई सवाल गया. नहीं आएगा समझ सवाल. The time taken for one complete orbit of our sun around a black hole is this. Perfect. बेटा let's say ये एक black hole है और सन इसके अराउंड ऑर्बिट कर रहे हैं. सन इसके अराउंड ऑर्बिट कर रहे हैं. देखो सन के भी कोई बड़े स्टार होते हैं या ब्लैक होल्स होते हैं जिनके अराउंड वो ऑर्बिट करते हैं. ठीक है. एंड द टाइम टेकन फॉर द कंप्लीट ऑर्बिट इज दिस इज योर कैपिटल डी. द डिस्टेंस फ्रॉम अवर सन टू द ब्लैक होल इज 26,000 लाइट ईयर. भाई ब्लैक होल से लेकर सन तक का डिस्टेंस इज 26,000 लाइट ईयर. परफेक्ट. Calculate the speed of our sun as it orbits around the black hole. What do we have to calculate, beta? We have to calculate the orbital speed. How can we calculate the orbital speed? Orbital speed is equals to 2 pi r over t. You know the time. How can you calculate r? How can you calculate 26,000 light years का distance? बेटा 26,000 लाइट ईयर्स का डिस्टेंस कैसे निकाल सकते हो? एनी जीनियसेस इन द चैट. हाउ कैन यू कैलकुलेट दिस डिस्टेंस? बहुत इजी है. इफ यू नोटिस 1 light year is equals to what? 1 light year is equals to the distance traveled by light in 1 year. So how can you calculate the distance traveled by light in 1 year? Taking the speed of light multiplying with time. What is the speed of light? 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8. What is the time in 1 year? 3.2 into 10 raised to the power of 7. This is your distance for 1 light year. Can any genius in the chart tell me what this answer will be by? Can any genius in the chart tell me what this answer will be? 3.2 into 10 raised to the power of 8 into 10 raised to the power of into 10 raised to the power of 7. The answer comes out to be what? 1 light year has a distance of what? 9.6 into 10 raised to the power of 15 meters. What will be the distance of 26,000 light years? Wait, 26,000 light years का distance क्या होगा बेटा? 2 pi will remain like this. And the distance of 26,000 light years will be 26,000 minus 9.6 into 10 raised to the power of 15. What is your time period? Any geniuses? Time period is 7.3 into 10 raised to the power of 15. What does your answer for orbital speed comes out to be? The answer for orbital speed comes out to be 21000 ms minus 1. Is this entire question clear to you all? बेटा ये लाइट ईयर वाली बात समझ नहीं आई. दिस इज बेसिक कॉमन सेंस. लाइट ईयर क्या होता है? डिस्टेंस ट्रैवल्ड बाय लाइट इन 1 ईयर. कभी भी आपने किसी भी चीज़ का डिस्टेंस निकालना होता है, व्हाट डू यू डू? स्पीड इनटू टाइम. लाइट की स्पीड क्या है? 3 into 10 raised to the power of 8. एक ईयर में कितना टाइम होता है? What is the time in 1 year? 3.2 into 10 raised to the power of 7 seconds. Multiply both of them. This gives you your distance for 1 light year. That is 9.6 into 10 raised to the power of 15 meters. Clear हो गई बेटा अब बात ये. Alpha particles are sometimes emitted from the nuclei of radioactive elements. This emission is both random and spontaneous. State what is meant by spontaneous. Yes, state what is meant by spontaneous. The process of radioactivity is not affected by external environment or external conditions. You can say that. You can say that emissions are not affected by external environment such as temperature and pressure. Okay, now you have to describe the composition of an alpha particle. How does an alpha particle look like? भाई कोई बताना चाहेगा? Two protons and two neutrons. Two protons and two neutrons resembling a helium nucleus. Resembling a helium nucleus. Simple as that. Let's further move ahead भाई. आगे बढ़ते हैं. Alpha particles are detected using tracks shown in a cloud chamber or by sparks produced in a spark counter. Beta, this is something that is very, very recently added in the O levels and IGCSE का syllabus. I have made a very short video on this. बेटा मैंने एक बहुत ही short video बनाई है क्लाउड चेम्बर्स पे और स्पार्क काउंटर्स पे. मैं सारे ग्रुप्स में शेयर कर रहा हूँ, तुम लोग काइंडली इसको देख लो. आफ्टर क्लास प्लीज एज अ होमवर्क असाइनमेंट इसको ले लो. और ये स्पार्क काउंटर्स और क्लाउड चेम्बर्स की वीडियोस जो है वो आपने देख लेनी है. इसमें सब चीज़ें टॉप टू बॉटम कवर्ड है. मैं अभी आंसर राइटिंग भी सिखा देता हूँ किस तरह करनी है. ठीक है, आंसर राइटिंग भी मैं सिखा देता हूँ किस तरह करनी है बेटा. इसकी बट अगर कोई अनअवेयर है विद द क्लाउड चेम्बर स्पार्क काउंटर्स, बिल्कुल ही नहीं पता क्या होते हैं, यू वॉच दिस वीडियो, यू विल बी अप टू पेस विथ ऑल द स्टूडेंट्स. ठीक है. अच्छा, नाउ लेट्स सी व्हाट डू वी हैव टू डू. Describe the structure of either a cloud chamber or a spark counter. Include a labeled drawing of the apparatus. Okay, so we will do both of them. We will do both of them. Chalo bhai, let's first of all start with a cloud chamber. Let's first of all start with a cloud chamber. Then let's make a partition here and let's say we have a spark counter here. Acha ji. So first of all, how does a cloud chamber looks like? How does a cloud chamber looks like? Very, very, very easy. बेटा क्लाउड चेम्बर की डायग्राम किस तरह बनाओगे? एनी आइडियाज? फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इन अ क्लाउड चेम्बर, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इन अ क्लाउड चेम्बर यू मस्ट हैव व्हाट. एक सेकंड में क्लाउड चेम्बर की डायग्राम ले आता हूँ यहाँ पे. इन अ क्लाउड चेम्बर you will make your diagram like this. Oh, this will be your diagram for the cloud chamber. बेटा ये क्लाउड चेम्बर की डायग्राम होगी. इसमें से मैं आपको बता देता हूँ कि 3 मार्क्स किन इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ों पे मिलने हैं. बेटा लेट मी टेल यू, क्लाउड चेम्बर की ये पूरी डायग्राम बनाना ज़रूरी नहीं है. क्लाउड चेम्बर की पूरी डायग्राम बनाना ज़रूरी नहीं है. You should have what? You should have 3 things. First of all, you should show alcohol vapors. अल्कोहल वेपर या अल्कोहल फेल्ट रिंग्स आपने सोक हुई भी यहाँ पे शो करनी. ठीक है. Secondly, you also have to show that cloud chambers have a plastic lid and a lamp. Plastic lid and a lamp for viewing purposes. बेटा देखो, अभी तक 2 चीज़ें आपने बतानी थी पूरे क्लाउड चेम्बर में. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल ये कि भाई एक प्लास्टिक लेड होती है, एक लैंप होता है फॉर व्यूइंग पर्पसेस, एंड देयर आर अल्कोहल वेपर्स. ठीक है, अल्कोहल वेपर्स यू हैव टू टेल अबाउट दैट. परफेक्ट. And you also have to tell that alcohol is soaked here in this regions. Perfect. What is the last thing that will give you a marks here in a cloud chamber? In a cloud chamber, you also have to tell that you have dry ice here. Simple. कितनी चीजें हो गई बेटा? 5 things. First of all, alcohol vapor. Second of all, lamp. Third of all, plastic lid. Fourth of all, felt ring with alcohol. And fifth of all, ice. ये 5 चीजें बता दी आपने, 3 मार्क्स गेन कर लिए. इजीएस्ट शिट एवर. ठीक है. अच्छा, यहाँ पे अगर आपको डायग्राम भी बनानी है तो आप सिर्फ इन 5 चीज़ों की बना सकते हो. सिर्फ इन 5 चीज़ों की डायग्राम बना सकते हो. यू कैन इग्नोर एवरीथिंग एल्स. ठीक है. अच्छा, अब स्पार्क काउंटर्स की डायग्राम किस तरह बनेगी सर? हाउ डू वी ड्रॉ द डायग्राम्स ऑफ स्पार्क काउंटर्स? बेटा, स्पार्क काउंटर्स में भी यू कैन ड्रॉ ओनली 3 थिंग्स एंड गेट अवे विथ इट. बेटा, स्पार्क काउंटर्स बनाना तो और भी इजी है. स्पार्क काउंटर्स बनाना तो और भी इजी है. फॉर स्पार्क काउंटर्स you have to show you have to show one terminal at a high voltage and one terminal at a low voltage. This will give you 1 mark. बेटा, स्पार्क काउंटर में you have to show one terminal at a very high voltage, one terminal at a very low voltage. या सेकंड क्या चीज शो करनी है आप? Secondly, you have to show that the upper wire is dotted. That the upper wire is dotted. This dotted wire is known as what? This dotted wire is known as metal gauze. And you must show that the bottom wire is a solid wire. बेटा, अगर ये आपने चीज़ें शो कर दी, you get 3 marks for spark counters as well. Both cloud chambers and spark counters are used for the detection of alpha particles. ये meeting 30 seconds में खत्म हो जाएगी. You have to rejoin again because there are 2 parts that are left. Describe how the emission of alpha particle is shown as random in the apparatus you have described in C. बेटा, किस तरह describe करोगे? Either describe the cloud chambers के भाई, you will give a plastic lid, you will give a lamp for viewing, you will give alcohol felt rings and alcohol vapors, you will give a dry ice for cooling. Either आप ये सारा लिख सकते हो in these lines, that are these 2 lines, or you can show it with a label diagram like this, or you can show it with a label diagram like this. If you have drawn a label diagram, that is sufficient enough. अगर इस तरह के label diagram बनाई भी है, that is sufficient enough. Okay. Now always remember, both the cloud chambers and spark counters are used for alpha particle detection. Okay. Describe how the emission of alpha particle is shown as random in the apparatus you have indicated in C part 1. Now, how is the emission of alpha particles shown as random in both of these apparatus? बेटा, यार ये देखो, ये चांस ना लो. एक बड़ा ही अच्छा सवाल आया सर. स्पार्क काउंटर अगर सिर्फ याद कर लें तो बेटा कितनी ही देर लगती है क्लाउड चेम्बर याद करने में. दिस बेसिकली सेपरेट्स यू फ्रॉम एन ए स्टार स्टूडेंट. याद कर लो, आप भी ए स्टार स्टूडेंट बन जाओगे. अच्छा, now let's see this. Describe how the emission of an alpha particle is shown as random in this apparatus you have described in C part 1. भाई, emission of alpha particles random किस तरह शो की गई है? In a cloud chamber, the emission is random. Why? यहाँ पे मैं दोनों के लिए लिख देता हूँ. In a cloud chamber, you can see the emission is random. Why? Because the time between the tracks time between the tracks varies. Time between the tracks formed varies. Perfect. अच्छा, अब स्पार्क काउंटर का भी लिख लो भाई. स्पार्क काउंटर में हाउ डू यू नो दैट द emission is random? You can say that the number of sparks in a certain time varies. Number of sparks in a certain time varies. Sparks in a certain time varies. Perfect. Let's further move ahead. Now, let's see this. A radioactive source produces 120 tracks in 1 minute in a cloud chamber. 6 hours later, the same source produces 15 tracks in 1 minute. State without the source present, no tracks are produced. Perfect. Calculate the half life of the radioactive source. Perfect. बेटा आप 120 ट्रैक्स प्रोड्यूस कर रहे थे इनिशियली, एक हाफ लाइफ के बाद यू विल प्रोड्यूस 60 ट्रैक्स, आफ्टर वन मोर हाफ लाइफ you will produce 30 tracks. After one more half life, you will produce 15 tracks. So to go from 120 to 15 tracks, how many half lives do you need? 1, 2, and 3. 3 half lives are equal to what? 3 half lives are equals to 6 hours. One half life will be equal to what? 2 hours. 2 hours is your answer. I hope this question is clear. This marks the end of today's lecture. कोई सवाल है तो पूछ लो, वरना that's it for today भाई.